What is going on, guys? Thank you for joining us. We're here for the Monday night show, once again supported by www.chrisdarwin.com. Go over and get the Johnny Cooper Championship Manager books. Tonight we have a special guest with us. He is the one, he is the only. We have second yellow card, also known as Matt. Thank you for coming on, pal.
You're welcome, mate.
Really appreciate it. It will be a good show, I am hoping. And as you'll see in the background now, I have this awesome little image I made. I know what you're all thinking, this guy's an artist. Now we have Ryan with us, as always. Cheers for coming on, Ryan.
Good evening.
I don't know why I say cheers for coming on, because you like to
Here every week.
You have to be here. It's like, cheers for coming on again. No doubt James will be joining us, but he is a busy man. He's probably on his way home from work now. But we're going to talk about some English football to start, and we're going to go below the Premier League to start. No doubt, Matthew, you'll be happy with this, as seeing as your club is definitely not going to be in the Premier League next year.
No, please don't talk about Fulham.
Hey, I'm going to tell you some facts about Fulham. You might not know these, but no doubt you will.
If you can tell me something I don't know, then.
The club was called Fulham St Andrews when they first were formed. Did you know that?
I did.
They moved to Craven Cottage in 1896.
Mm-hmm.
Here's something I did not know. Did you know that Bobby Moore and George Best both played for the club?
Yeah, at the same time, I believe.
You are just showing off. Do you know what? I genuinely didn't know that. And people who are listening, I would love to know if you knew that, because I like to think I know quite a lot about football. Ryan, did you know that?
No.
Brilliant. See? No, makes me feel better about myself, because I literally thought, wow, how did I not know that?
We've had some really sort of star-studded players play for us, sort of, sometimes even in, like, not even the twilights of their careers. It's been really strange during the sort of 60s and early 70s, back when we were a top-tier team, like people like George Best, and we had some pretty big players. It's really strange to think that players like George Best actually play for Fulham.
It's something to be proud of, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a history of a club. Also, you have one of our own, Malcolm MacDonald. He was at the club. His young side in the early 1980s did quite well. But then you had a period which obviously turned the club round, which was the Al Fayed era, which is something no doubt you grew up with, so something to be proud of, something to remember, the fact that your club just steamrolled the divisions.
Yeah, I mean, when I believe that Fayed was actually interested, I think he actually purchased shares in Cambridge United at the same time. I think it was 1996. But after that, it was, well, meteoric, I guess. Within about 6 years, I think we were in the top 10.
I think it's, I mean, you did well when you were up. I mean, you were always a club people like to watch. Do you know, this is going to sound weird, but when I think of Fulham in the Premier League, I think of Bobby Zamora shushing the crowd.
I think of, yeah, I mean, Bobby Zamora is one of the sort of, but I think of more people like Brian McBride.
Oh, yeah, legend for
Fulham.
Fulham. You can say legend with McBride, can you?
You can. Oh, believe me, to Fulham fans, he is a legend. Well, he is to me, anyway.
I'm sure this is what Ryan is dying to ask, but he probably doesn't know how to ask it. Is Michael Jackson a legend?
No, I don't even know where that statue is. I think the statue's been given back to Mohammed Al Fayed.
It surprised me. It looks nothing like Michael Jackson.
Yes,
It
Ryan.
looked like the sort of thing that you'd get in like a chess set. Like, based around Michael Jackson.
I think
toy.
the best thing about that is the fact that Ryan's issue with the whole thing is that the statue didn't look quite like him.
Well, it did. It looked like a Happy Meal.
I wasn't the only one who said it. It was all over the news.
I would say the biggest issue is the fact that randomly a statue of Michael Jackson got put up.
It's only because he's friends with whoever the chairman is.
It simply wasn't, was it? He like went to the stadium one time. He may as well have a statue of Yuri Geller.
But I mean, when we go through, you went to Europe. I mean, Fulham in Europe. You had
Final.
yeah, that's it. I mean, yeah, Roy Hodgson did a lot of great things at Fulham. I'm sure he'll be remembered as a great manager at the club.
Roy is one of my favourite managers, just in general, just because I love everything about him.
He's a good manager. I mean, he gets a lot of stick, doesn't he? As England manager, but I don't mind him. I think he does a decent job.
Because he's England manager, I don't think you could ever be England manager and not just get stick, because it's just constant. No one's ever going to. I think you could win the World Cup and people would complain about the way you won it.
Yeah. I think some of the strange things, I would say Martin Yoli, he was there a fair amount of time, but he never really impressed me whilst he was at Fulham.
he sort of, like, his early success, I think, was predicated on the back of the success that Roy had built, and obviously, Mark Hughes in his brief spell. But this whole decline to where we are right now actually, began under Yul. Not just the season when Shahid Khan took over, but the season before that. Like, we were on the beach for about the last 3 months of the season, a bit like how Newcastle are right now.
We can't make it to the beach.
You're still in the hut.
We're stuck in the hut trying to find the door. People, just quickly before the next part of the Fulham journey, people who are listening, if you're listening for the first time, there's a button in the top right corner. If you click on it, there's an option for question and answers if you want to chuck some questions over to Mr. Yellow. He is from Reservoir Dogs. That joke gets used every time he comes on.
I thought we'd shaken that one off.
No, never. But the next, I want to kind of skip René Mullenstein because that guy's a really nice guy and he did nothing wrong in my opinion.
I wish he'd been given the time.
Well, he couldn't have been given less time, but was it almost him just wanting to get out of there?
No, I think it was, if anything, well, it looked to me like they basically put Rennie in charge and then went, right, let's now use this time while he's in charge to try and find someone who we think is going to take this forward. But, I mean, they sacked him on Valentine's Day of all times. It was meant to be a happy day, and then they broke my heart by putting that monster in charge.
Well, I mean, let's be honest, I think what impressed Ryan the most, I would assume, is the glasses, Ryan. I mean, they were awesome, weren't they, from Felix Magath?
They looked like Danger Mouse.
Yeah. What's the character? I was just looking at the character from Danger Mouse that he looks like. Tenfold.
Yep.
It's they're impressive. I mean, let's be honest. You can imagine him bollocking you in the dressing room and you're just staring at his glasses thinking, I've got to take this guy seriously. All I want to do is touch his glasses. Will he slap me if I touch them?
He'd do more than that. I've heard some weird things about it.
What's just from the insider point of view, what happened there?
I think what it was, I mean, Magath's got a fairly solid managerial record. He obviously won I think he even won the Champions League at Bayern Munich, and I know he won the Bundesliga at Wolfsburg, but it just didn't translate. Fulham were a very relaxed kind of team, and it was a little bit like he'd come in and try to sort of enforce this kind of new discipline into our squad, and basically they'd complain because they hadn't had nap time. It's not the kind of thing that we would expect of a Premier League football club, and he just wasn't the right manager for us. And then when we got relegated, it seemed like his plan was to basically just throw the entire youth team to the Lions, basically, and then wonder why it didn't work. That's why we got 1 point from our first 8 league games this season.
I think fair play, he had an awesome record in Germany. I think we'll all admit that. Everybody would admit that. I just think Germany's it's a competitive league, don't get me wrong, but I think what a lot of people will just turn around and say is it is not the Premier League. And the I just think, as you say, I think it kind of just assumed the Championship would just roll over.
Yeah,
and
we have one of the best squads. People like McCormack, these are really top quality players, but if you can't, the Championship is a completely different kettle of fish. The Premier League, if you've got a bit of class, you can use that to your advantage, but in the Champions League, it is a fight. And obviously Bournemouth have proved this year that, you can play good football and go up, but you still need to have that physical edge. And putting a team out with a bunch of 17-year-olds like Emerson Heinemann and Patrick Roberts and those guys, they're going to be fantastic players, but they're not yet.
Now, what I would say is I watched the under-17 England when they played in the tournament. I think they came runners-up, didn't they? I think they did. And Patrick Roberts played in that, and Fulham have some really good players like Woodrow, etc. What's happening there? Are these guys still developing, or have they just been lost in the club?
I was reading an article. There's a blog written by a Fulham fan. It's called HammyEnd.com, and basically they did a sort of a draft thing for the end of the season relating to how well some of the youth players have developed this year, because we fielded 18 players in our squad that were under the age of 22 this year. And
wow.
Exactly. And sort of grading them in terms of how they've developed. And, Patrick Roberts is one of the ones who clearly has one of the highest ceilings, like his talent level, like what he could potentially become, as all of us who've played Football Manager will know. It's clearly there. It's just, he still looks incredibly slight, and in the Championship he's going to get bullied around because he's not the biggest. He's still only 18, so he's going to have to bulk up, though. And I think that's the case with a lot of our youngsters, and we have had quite a few injuries. Like, we've got this American lad, Emerson Heinemann, who's already a full American international. I think he's only 18 as well. But it's the same kind of thing. He has one of the best pass percentages in the Championship in the games that he did actually play for us. But he's now got a horrible hamstring injury. And again, he just used to get bullied off the ball, and that was our problem. We just didn't have the physicality.
I think it's I mean it's as you said, they don't not so much they need to bulk up, but they just need to kind of learn how to protect the ball, don't they? And learn how to ride the challenges. And because I don't know, this is the kind of the pinnacle of this discussion about Fulham is where they going. Like next season, what is it? Is it a consolidation season? Is it a top half? What are you hoping for?
Well, I'm hoping that we win every single game and go up as champions, but that ain't going to happen. But it's a case of I genuinely don't know, because like what I'd obviously hope for is that a really solid season next year where we actually start looking like the team that we probably do have some of those players to come through along with some of the quality, and that to me should be enough for at least a playoff berth. But if we're basically like a rudderless ship at the moment, because as much as Magat went and that gave everybody a nice big parade and happy times, you put Kit Simons in charge, who I love Kit, he's a brilliant coach, but he's tactically naive to the point where if what we do from the start of a game doesn't work, he does not know how to change it to make it work, and that's why we get absolutely battered. And if we're in a game and we're winning and the other team's manager changes something, we don't then know how to react, and which is why I think, against Middlesbrough last week, albeit we did win the game, but we were 3-1 up against 10 men and they came back.
Yeah, it's that's frustrating. I mean, obviously we have John Carver, and it's the exact same situation. He just kind of looks like a lost sheep on the side of the pitch.
He looks like a PE teacher.
It looks like a PE teacher which would lay you out. He looks so angry against Leicester. I think, as you were saying, I think Fulham have a lot of potential. They've got like McCormack as well, who are currently, they have the ability. They're not obviously a developing player. But like you said, do they need to change the manager? Will they change the manager in the summer?
I mean, it was looking like it. We were having a poor run towards the end of the season. Like, we had a little blip where we actually looked quite decent, and then it just seemed to fade back down again. And I was kind of hoping that we'd get almost, sometimes when your club is in a terrible state, I'm sure you can know exactly what I'm talking about, where you almost want you to lose a few more games just so they'll do something about it.
Yeah.
And then we beat Middlesbrough last week, albeit because of Karanka's decision to put the goalkeeper up for a corner. That was ludicrous, but it gave us the win. And I think it's almost a bit like it's almost like I'm always going to compare it to radiation sickness, where you're dying of radiation poisoning, but then you feel better for a bit, and then you die. And that's kind of the problem we're having at the moment. I think if we don't replace Kit now, then we could end up doing an entire pre-season with him in charge. I don't think he's going to be able to go and bring anyone decent into the club. So I just think, I don't know, it could end up being another season of struggles, or even worse. Like, look what's happened to Wigan this year.
That was a shock. I'm sure you'll agree, Ryan. I mean, what do you think looking from the outside with Fulham?
Well, it's like you say, they have a few good youngsters, but are they going to keep them? Look at the youngsters they've had. I've just had a look at a massive list of all the youngsters they've had, like the likes of Chris Smalling, Berbatov. They've all been at Fulham and left. Are they going to keep these youngsters? Because I've heard Patrick Roberts is wanted by quite a few top clubs.
Yeah.
Money talks.
Money talks. I think it's
not
more...
like he's...
Sorry, go on.
It's the thing is, the other problem we have is that a lot of, like, for example, some clubs can hang on to these players if they're slightly smaller clubs because the players are a fan of those teams, so they'll want to stay and help them out. But Patrick Roberts, as far as I know, isn't a Fulham fan. He just happens to be as part of our academy, and the only reason our academy is so good is because when we saw what was happening with Southampton, we poached the head of their academy.
He poached the head of the academy and got some decent youth in.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we've got some fantastic. Obviously, we've got Moussa Dembele, who looks like a hell of a talent.
Who is not the brother of the Tottenham player?
No, there's an extra S or one less S in his name. I can't remember exactly which way. He's a sort of. He's a very, like, he doesn't look like his age. He looks like a man. But unfortunately, he still has the sort of tactical brain of a much younger player. And I think that kind of, like, for example, in the FA Youth Cup last year, when we played Chelsea in the final, we probably would have won that, but instead of just putting a penalty away like a normal person, he tried to do a Panenka and ended up putting it off the crossbar.
Oh dear. Just head banging your head against a wall in them kind of situations.
Exactly.
But what we're going to do is we're just going to talk about the rest of the Championship, the stuff which has happened over the weekend. So Bournemouth went up as champions, thanks to Sheffield Wednesday getting a late equaliser against Watford, which I'm sure, as you said, Bournemouth they've deserved to go up. They've played some great football. They've been up there all the way. They've just been a really, really good side. But I think the question I want to ask is, what's going to happen to them next year?
Who are you asking?
Ah, that's for you, Matt. Sorry, Ryan.
Oh,
You know I don't talk to you much, Ryan.
I would love them to stay up because I mean, all season I've been wishing that Bournemouth would go up. Because have you noticed how they always seem to go up on FM?
They always do well on FM, unless I control them.
But I always felt that they had the potential in them to do that, and FM was kind of my judgment on that, which is why I kind of feel like Huddersfield might do well over the next couple of years. But I would love them to stay up. It's just a question of whether they can. I mean, obviously, they are going to be able to fill their stadium every week, that's for sure, because it's only 12,000 seats, and I know they're going to have to do some upgrades in order to just make it up to the standard to play in the Premier League, from what I've heard.
Is it 12.5, Ryan? Seated to minimum in the Premier League?
I think it's 15 now.
Oh, is it?
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah, because I know I had to upgrade when I was at Gillingham.
They'll be getting all the deck chairs out then. Line them up all the way around the pitch and start counting how many extra. There'll be deck chairs in every single spare space now for next season.
Yeah, but they'll have the money.
I think as Matt said, Ryan, I think they've got a chance of staying up, but I just fear that if they try to play their style of football in the Premier League, they might get completely battered by a couple of teams and it might end up destroying the confidence of the players. I'm not too sure. Because obviously that's the difference, isn't it, between the top side and the side who's just maybe coming up, is the confidence side of it.
I don't think they'll do that. I think, because I've just forgotten the manager's name, it was just right on the tip of my tongue.
Eddie Howe.
Eddie Howe, that's the one. He's a very confident manager. He seems to know what he's doing, and I reckon he'll go into the Premiership and he'll have not a totally different style, but a style that will suit Bournemouth for the Premiership. These are genuinely a team which I'm excited to see because they've been loyal to Eddie Howe, obviously because he left, didn't he, to go to Burnley, and they've welcomed him back. The players seem like they have a genuine respect for him, and I really do think he's going to stick to most of the squad. But then when you look at a side like Watford, Matt, just something tells me this team is going to go mental over the summer.
Well, I mean, they've obviously got their links with Udinese, but they're going to have to make changes to that because, from what I know, the rules regarding loan players are different from the Premier League to the Championship, so they might not be able to do that again. But the fact is, if they are bankrolled they've obviously got some serious moolah behind them, and obviously they're going to be essentially the club for me that's going to go and spend out on players like what Leicester have done with people like Kramaric, the sort of £10 million dropped on a really quite unknown quantity, not unknown quantity, like he's been proven in the Croatian league, but you have no idea how he's going to do in the Premier League. It's the same with Fulham and Mitroglou at that time. But I don't think Bournemouth will go down that route. Bournemouth will probably, if they do sign players, might sign them from existing Championship clubs, a couple of current Premier League clubs, perhaps. And I think they will have to change the way they play in order to stay up. But I think Eddie Howe is a very canny operator and probably one of the, if not the best young manager in the country at the moment. To actually do what he's done with Bournemouth is absolutely incredible, and to do it in such a style, like they really, not only did they go up, but they've gone up with like such a panache about the way they play. The amount of goals they've scored is incredible. Yeah,
they've been awesome to watch. And I do know that Watford are owned by the son of the rich bloke. Now I know he handed over ownership of the club, so they're not as linked as they were. They're not owned by the same bloke now. They're now owned by a different family member, which I bet he's kicking himself now because they'll make an absolute fortune now.
I imagine they're still connected.
I was going to say, I've got a feeling to get round the loan market, it'll literally be, okay, you've just bought him. How much? I just have him. There might be some players randomly switching between.
You could sell it back at the end of the season.
Well, yes, I mean, obviously they've got Granada, so there'll be a couple of Spanish players maybe come wandering over. It's definitely going to be interesting. I mean, if they can get a player like Michu did for Swansea and come over from Spain and just have an absolute killer first season, that could be the turning point. I mean, and Troy Deeney, obviously, if he gets himself 15, 20 goals, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, he's got 20 for the last 3 seasons in a row, 20 plus. So, I mean, can he get 15 in the Premier League?
it's a completely different kettle of fish. You know, scoring 15 goals or 20 goals in the Championship is a very. I'm not saying it can't be done, because as we've seen from people like Charlie Austin, it can be done. But is Troy Deeney really going to be the fulcrum of the Watford attack next year, or are they going to bring in more players to, partner like Vidra and is it Ikalo and God knows who else?
That's the issue.
Going to play every game.
I genuinely don't think Watford have any trust in any of the department. They could go out and sack the manager tomorrow. They're so random.
Well, they've done that already. I mean, was it 4 managers they've had this season?
Yes, it was, because I made a joke with Fox in the Box about them having 20 managers throughout the season.
Well, if it works.
That's it. If people are listening, I'm coughing, I do apologise. People will know that I've been dying for about a week now. Don't worry, I hope I am actually alive by next week. Max's FM Stories listening, thanks for listening, pal. He said Blackpool played a similar way to how Bournemouth play, and they were closest in up. They did, and I think that genuinely the difference is I think Bournemouth have a lot more quality than Blackpool. So it's definitely going to be interesting, because there are some shit teams in the Premier League. I mean, if Newcastle stay up, I mean, there's 6 easy points for Bournemouth. It's genuinely just it's going to be interesting, because there are some really, really bad teams in the Premier League at the minute, and you seriously wonder how some teams survive each year.
I suppose it's the attitude of there are 3 worse teams than us, and that's kind of what's keeping several Premier League teams afloat. I genuinely think if you were to actually match up the top of the Championship and the bottom 5, 6, 7 of the Premier League, there would be quite some overlap. Middlesbrough are an incredibly good team at the moment, as are Norwich under Alex Neil. Alex Neil, yeah. And I genuinely think that, given a chance against teams like Newcastle at the moment, Middlesbrough would absolutely batter Newcastle at the moment.
Yeah, I'd rather not think about that.
I should have said Norwich.
I'm hoping if James isn't on by 35 minutes past, I will then start my Newcastle rant, just for people who are looking forward to the weekly explosion.
Newcastle rant.
Yeah. But going into the playoffs this year, Ryan, is Norwich, Middlesbrough, Brentford and Ipswich. Now, obviously, Brentford have done fantastic to get up there. I really do not want them to go up because of the attitude towards the manager. I really want Ipswich to get into the final just because Jay is a Norwich
just so we can laugh at Jay.
Yeah. And Middlesbrough I almost want in the Premier League just because I can fly back over to England to watch Newcastle play Middlesbrough. And some of my family are Middlesbrough supporters, some are Newcastle supporters. So I think the question is, who's going to
you're basically hoping for a Middlesbrough-Ipswich final?
Yeah, Middlesbrough-Ipswich final with Middlesbrough going up, hopefully, just because it's another local team to where I'm from before I ran away from the UK. Who are you fancying, Ryan?
I just can't look anything past Norwich. I think their form, they're just going to keep going. They'll take it into the playoffs, but the Championship playoffs, it's all to play for. It's whoever turns up. So I'm going to go Norwich, but it'll be close.
Who's going to go into the final with them, though?
Middlesbrough.
Middlesbrough.
I don't think Brentford will get through.
Yeah, they don't deserve to just because of the way they've treated the manager. They deserve to go through because of the manager, but not the way the board is treating him. And what about yourself, Matt?
The sort of novelty factor in me wants to see Brentford just because it's a new team. But then
an underdog.
Exactly, the perennial underdog, and the fact that to go back-to-back promotions like that would be incredible. But as you say, the way that they've treated Mark Warburton is just utterly hilarious. Well, except it's not hilarious. It would be funny if it wasn't so tragic, because he's done such a fantastic job for them. And frankly, I would welcome him at Fulham.
He's a good manager. I mean, he talks sense, and I like how he's handled it as well. Because he hasn't ignored it. He's actually spoke about it as well, which I actually like. Because he's gave his opinion on it, for example, and it's good to see. But
I think it's because I believe the owner of Brentford is a guy called Matthew Benton, and I think they also own a club in Denmark. which I can't remember if it's FC Copenhagen or if it's Midtjylland, but I believe that they want to try and do this sort of Moneyball style of thing. And apparently, what they want really isn't so much a manager, more a sort of yes man that will do what they want. And I don't think Warburton's really that type of manager, and that's kind of why they're trying to look to change things, I guess. But he will fall on his feet and get an incredibly good job. Probably not in the Premier League or anything, but I expect to see him at a top Championship club next season.
I really think that if Brentford don't go up, they'll go down next year. I really think this whole sacking of the manager and the way it's going to happen over the summer, with him just walking away, and I really do think it could just completely implode the club.
I suppose it depends on who they replace him with. It's all very well having this plan, but
if they replace him with a yes man who's just literally turns up and says yes, the players aren't going to respect that.
I think what you're likely to see is possibly a little bit like what we saw at Leeds when Cellino took over, i.e. The sacking of, was it Brian McDermott or Neil Redfern, and the appointment of the coach of Maribor, Darko Milanic. But those are the types of men, like he's not tried and tested in this league. Not that you always need to be, because that is a farcical statement to make. You can't, just because you've managed in the league before doesn't mean you're going to be able to do well in it again, and just because you've never managed in it doesn't mean you're going to be crap at it. But it does always help to have that level of experience in mind. And I think that if they replace him with someone like that, so say they take the manager of, I don't know, someone like Red Star Belgrade or Partizan, because it's a club that's had success in its domestic league, and although hasn't done too much in Europe lately, they might think the manager's any good for the same reasons. And it could have the exact same problem as it did with Milanic at Leeds, basically. Yeah. And I just think that that's a poor decision. Or they'll probably try and sign, maybe they'll take someone from the Danish leagues.
I was going to say, you could end up seeing the manager from the club in Denmark coming over.
Exactly. In fact, yeah, that would probably be even more likely.
Yeah, it's well, let's wait and see. Going down League One, Bristol City have gone up. Fair play to Bristol City. I know I saw some talk about Bristol City and how the owner that owns a lot of clubs in Bristol, the ice hockey, basketball, etc. And they are building a sports club with a football team inside that club. So definitely good for the football club to be within such a solid foundation. So I think they'll do well in the Championship next year. And also joining them was Milton Keynes, Ryan.
Yeah, I reckon they'll do well in the Championship. They should do. 5-1 win on the final day shows how good they are.
I mean, they've been knocking on that door, haven't they, for a few years. And fair play to Milton Keynes, Matt, for sticking by the manager and not just kind of panic changing to push for the promotion.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, there's obviously a lot of controversy surrounding Milton Keynes, and I know a lot of people don't even agree with them being a team, so I guess it's hard to have an opinion on it. But, like, for any fans of any club, it's always nice to see them have success, and I guess it will be interesting to see how they cope. But there's one thing to say, they definitely have the infrastructure and the stadium in place to play at that level. And
definitely.
I think the only time they've ever sold out their stadium was that match when they beat Man United 4-0 last year.
But I know somebody posted on our Facebook group. I'm always happy to jump on these controversial things. Someone posted on our Facebook group about the money selling out against Man United. And I said, they're not going to turn up to watch them play Yeovil when the club is still growing. Fans are not going to learn about the club or go to the club until the club gets bigger. It's always going to happen. It's like somebody was talking about FC United Manchester and said, oh, you went to support them. You more fans have gone as they've started winning. And somebody replied saying, well, you're not going to support a team because they're crap, are you?
Winning breeds winning.
Yeah, like a young kid might be sat at home and goes, oh, that team's doing really well, I'll go and watch them. He's not going to sit there and go, oh, that team got beat, let's go and watch them next week.
Precisely. Like, with kids growing up nowadays that don't have, like, for example, I didn't really come from a sort of football supporting family, really. I mean, my parents both support football teams, but not, like, fanatically, I suppose. So it was always a situation where, because of where I live, there was never really, like, a football team you were immediately drawn to. So you're in a situation where, as a kid growing up, you have to basically make a choice of who you're going to support. And that, I guess, is why a lot of people from down south or whatever support Man United or Liverpool or nowadays probably Manchester City, just because they are the successful team and they see them like that. And I suppose that comes from the whole glory hunter thing. But not everyone makes that decision. Obviously, I had to make a choice to support Fulham, like, at will.
It's just sometimes you just pick a club that you watched maybe once and you thought you enjoyed watching it, so you picked that club when you were.
That's basically what it was. I used to watch them back in the days when ITV had the rights to the highlights. It was early 2000s when I was sort of 10, 11 years old. I used to watch Des Lynam present it, and like, it always used to be, I don't know, I just used to really, really like Fulham, and you just sort of build up a weird affinity, and then you're just like, actually, I don't have a club, I like football now, I really want to support a team, I'm going to support them.
There you go, and that's going to happen with Milton Keynes more and more.
It will.
And the talk about them not, they shouldn't have a club. At the end of the day, Wimbledon were going bankrupt. People need to remember this. The council at the time, at that specific time, which people seem to forget, didn't want anything to do with the club. So it was either somebody bought the place in the league, that person owned that spot in League 2 or League 1, whichever one it was at the time. So at the end of the day, they can do what they want with it. If they want to move it to Milton Keynes, they can move it to Milton Keynes. Yeah, die-hard football fans might not like that idea of a franchise style where they just move town, but at the end of the day, they can do that. Man United started it called Newton Heath, for example. These things happen in football. People seriously, some of the people complained on our football group literally only today about this, and it's just like, get over it. It's I'm pretty sure most Wimbledon fans now don't really care anymore.
I'm not entirely sure that's true. I think that a lot of them really do care. I think the reason that I would, for example, particularly if you're a fan that lives locally and goes to all the games, particularly in what could be considered not Wimbledon personally in this particular case, but particularly in a working class area. For example, I'm trying to think of a team that would fit this bill, but if they moved the team like 200 miles away or whatever, suddenly these fans and their kids would be growing up without a club to support. And I guess I could totally understand their backlash based around it, really.
I can understand that side of it, where like you're like, shit, it just moved my club. But they need to remember, this is not Milton Keynes' fault. And that's where the issue lies. The issue should be with the council at the time, the local people, because there's documentaries about on YouTube, go and watch them. They tried to keep the club in the area, but they literally were forced to move, basically. So I genuinely think people need to look a lot more into it and just kind of
watch a documentary, basically.
Stop blaming Milton Keynes and the town of Milton Keynes, because there's so many people literally give Milton Keynes so much hate. And, well, also I delivered quite a lot of the stuff when they were building the stadium, so I kind of grew to like the club. So it kept me in my job for a while. But we'll drop down to League 2. Another club begin with B. Burton won the title. Fantastic. Well played to Burton. Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. Shrewsbury went up, beating Cheltenham. And Bury went up with a 1-0 victory over Tranmere. That was changing throughout the day. Wickham were going up at 1 point. Southend I think they were Morecambe. They didn't really have a good day, so they dropped off. They're now in the playoffs. But it definitely was an interesting league. Plymouth are in the playoffs as well, so fair play to Plymouth. Another big club, Matt, who deserves to be higher.
Yeah, I mean, I remember back in the day playing old Football Manager games. Plymouth were always a team that you'd have championship at least. Well, not at least. They were always a sort of second and third tier kind of club, basically. But to see them as low down as that, and in previous, recent seasons, they've been sort of struggling towards the lower end of League Two. It's nice to see them sort of coming back up again, because I remember a few years ago hearing a story about how back when Peter Reid was managing Plymouth, he actually ended up having to pay their electricity bill himself.
I remember that, yeah, and then they sacked him a couple of weeks later.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Then into the conference, Barnet, a club who I always kind of think they should be a League 2 side. So now they've gone up, they're going to be in League 2. I think that's where they kind of belong. And it's Bristol Rovers against Grimsby in the final.
Grimsby, another former club that were very good many years ago.
They've been lingering in that Conference Premier, along with the likes of Wrexham, haven't they? There's kind of a club which you'd assume should be higher, along with Lincoln, along with Kidderminster, really. There's a few clubs down in the conference. I mean, I think the leagues are so much stronger now in general, aren't they? There's clubs which are quite far down who should really they've always been a bit higher up, and now they've kind of found their place a lot lower than they used to be, Matt.
I think what's done that is the rise of clubs in much, much lower leagues that are sort of back to the hilt. So the modern examples of that would be people like Fleetwood Town and Crawley Town, who at times Crawley, when they were a conference club, were signing players for more than you could get if you were a League One club.
Yeah.
And I believe, apologies, they were signing players for like £250,000 in the conference, and they were essentially a non-league club in name only. And Fleetwood are sort of the latest round of that, but currently in the conference, of course, you've got Eastleigh, who, as far as I know, they're back to the hilt as well. And obviously, this is their first season, I think, up in the conference, and they got into the playoffs. Obviously, narrowly lost out to Grimsby, but next season, I think Eastleigh will probably walk that league. And because there's only one slot to go up, it's a bit like what they talk about with the Spanish third tier. Once they call it the well, because once you fall in, it's incredibly difficult to get out.
Yeah, so many teams buying for them just a couple of spots out of that league. It's I think it's interesting to see, like you say, Eastleigh is going to be definitely one to watch next year to see if they can push on and get into League Two. We're going to go into the Premier League now, so if you just bear with me 1 second. The first game was Leicester 3, Newcastle 0. I'm not going to go on a massive rant as I have in the last couple of weeks because it doesn't genuinely do anything. We're still just as shit as we were the week before, and the week before that when I got angry, and the week before that. Did the players did they get sent off on purpose? No. They were just too slow or just too shit. Mike Williamson, let's be honest, that guy's not a championship defender. And the tackle was shocking. I really just thought the cameraman had said something to him. I don't think he was going for the Leicester player, so maybe he should have been sent off for attacking someone in the crowd. It's just so bad, and Jan Matt literally just kind of saw the guy go past him and thought, oh, fuck this, I'll just trip him over. And then I genuinely think he just turned around and went, shit, I'm already on a yellow.
Williamson, I actually heard someone describe him the other day as he sounds like a Football Manager regen, because you kind of forget that he's actually a real footballer.
It's so bad. It's genuinely so bad. It's do you know that I was speaking to Jake, one of the admins on our Facebook group, and it's just I genuinely don't understand how this guy gets paid as much money as he does. There is hope for us all. I genuinely believe I could play in the Premier League. Now, bear in mind, Ryan jumped for a header once in his life and he hurt his knee. I really think Ryan could play football for Newcastle. And you spoke earlier about almost wanting your team to lose so the situation can improve. I said the other day, and I actually stand by this, I want us to get relegated. Now, people will be thinking, are you stupid? Genuinely, if we go down, the amount of players who have clauses in their contracts meaning we have to sell them, it would be freaking amazing. Because that whole team needs to go. They are so bad. None of them care. None of them have any interest whatsoever in the club. All they want to do is pick up a paycheck, go home, use the right hand to get excited, and just go to sleep. They have no interest about the club, and it pisses me off no end. You watch some... Oh my God, you watch some of the players, and they get the ball, and they just look up and they just think, fuck, I can't be asked to pass it, and they just kick it as hard as they can. Then you have Colaccini. I swear down that bloke's a diabetic because he runs after sugar as if he needs it. He thinks every player is sugar and he tries to lick them. He runs out of... No matter where that ball is on the pitch, he will chase it. And you see, right, you know you're shit when Mike Williamson's shouting at you to get back in line. He stood there with his arms out telling people to hold a line, and Colaccini just sees that sugar cube and just goes running after the ball. And he gets out of position so much. And people ask me, why do I get so stressed watching Newcastle? Watch a full game, not just the highlights. And I swear down, you'll have a knife in your hand ready to slit your wrist. They are so bad. It's just embarrassing. But we'll move on before I just literally cry. Colin's listening, FM Yankee said, good evening, guys. Now, FM Yankee is a good friend of ours, Matt. He's always on our groups. We talk to him a lot in our private chats with about Major League Soccer and just life in general. And he is a massive fan of yours. He watches all of your shows. He watched the Portsmouth all the way through. And he's loving your new stuff, and he's just commented there saying, love Second Yellow Card series and videos. So,
Wow. Thanks, mate. So I'm terrible at handling praise.
it's alright. It was actually when we first started talking to him, I suggested him to watch you, and he was like, "Oh, do you do it?" and it turns out you're the reason he actually got into socialising about Football Manager.
Really?
Yeah, so good effort. See?
Well,
He's so
transcended the genre.
I'll just quickly go through the scores. Chelsea beat Crystal Palace 1-0. They are now the Premier League champions. Well done. Tottenham 0, Man City 1. That's right, Man City won a game. Aston Villa 3, Everton 2. Tim Sherwood, why didn't he come to Newcastle? Because we are stupid. Liverpool 2, QPR 1. Gerrard missed a penalty, then he scored. Standing ovation as he went off. Sunderland 2, Southampton 1. I said during that game, if Sunderland won, Newcastle are in the shit. It's so close now. Luckily, we actually have some decent games to run in, but we're still not going to win them.
The games like Leicester away.
Yeah, well, we've got West Brom at home next. So
Yeah, West Brom just won at United.
I know, but we're not going to win it. So
And Palace.
Swansea 2, Stoke 0. West Ham beat Burnley 1-0. Feel sorry for Burnley, they're a good side. And then Man United lost to West Brom. I didn't see the score. Luckily, he was too busy with work. Jamie J 619, thanks for listening. He said, "You gotta love John Carver." Do you know, I love John Carver's passion because he does love the club. He's just not cut out for the job, and it's so sad to see because you can actually see a man collapsing inside. He literally, do you know, when there was reports come out that there was an incident on the bus, and it turns out that it was Tim Krul and Colaccini. Obviously, Krul must have been pulling his hair, I guess. I genuinely, all the reports said Carver had punched someone, and I don't think anybody I spoke to was like, "What?" We were all just like, "Yeah, we saw it coming."
About time.
I was kind of surprised he didn't do it when one of the guys was leaving the pitch at the end of the match, because he looked like he was going to kill someone.
I think he looks like that sort of by default, though, doesn't he? He kind of looks like a clenched fist.
He looks so angry. He genuinely scares me, and I'm sitting looking through a TV. Elliot Wakefield, thank you for listening, pal. I know you commented before. He's just saying who's going down. Well, QPR and Burnley are kind of down. I think Sunderland are going to go down just to cheer myself up, just to make my depressive season just a little bit better. Ryan, who's going to join them too?
Hull.
I'm going to kick you out just for not saying something. Matt?
See, it's a really tough one. Like, I was thinking it was going to be Sunderland, but that win over Southampton has just dragged everyone right back into it. So I genuinely think Newcastle might actually be the one that bites the dust.
It would be so sad, but like I've said, it's almost going to be a blessing in disguise because there is a lot of people out of contract and there's a lot of people who have clauses in their contracts which say if we get relegated, they have a freedom to look for a new club, which I'm happy to help with if any of them message me.
You'll drive them there.
I'll drag them. I'll swear I'll piggyback them. No problem. And they are not welcome to come over and play over here. The suit's not good enough. But we have a minute left, so I just want, Matt, you have 1 minute to sell your new series, which is awesome, by the way, guys. And Matt's really good at selling himself, so... there's 10 episodes in. Actually, it's the 11th, or was it the 10th?
No, it's 10. I recorded episode 11 this morning.
I remember now because I watched number 9 before I went to work this morning, and then 10 when I've got home. By the way, there were shocking expectations for the second season.
Yeah, someone's told me that maybe it's because of my managerial stats. Because I've got quite good stats, it makes the board think that I'm going to do better, because I was bricking it when I saw that.
I thought that first season, I thought you would get higher stats. I didn't even consider that second season.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's going to be a nightmare to try and... Like, it's all very well... I think that based on the squad that we've got and the signings we've made, which you've obviously now seen, we can stay up. But, I mean, obviously I can't give away too much because I've recorded a couple of months' worth of episodes today, but it's tough. Plus, with that system, I just wonder how well that's going to work against better teams.
I'll tell you what, man. What I do find quite funny is my new series, which I've started. Episode 1 went live tonight. If you actually check that out, Matt, my system is so close to yours.
The obvious.
And I really did not plan it. It was genuinely just like, right, I have no wingers. But the only difference is you're playing a halfback, and I'm just playing 3 in the centre midfield.
Well, like, basically, I was trying to work on... I basically just tried to play to the strengths of the team that we had. And obviously we do have a couple of wingers, but I just felt that our strengths were in other areas. And I was bitching about it on Twitter, because I think I was talking to you about it at the time as well, actually. And someone suggested to me to dump my 2 wingers inside and put them as another pair of centre midfielders. So having like this almost like not a diamond midfield, but like a sort of pentagon.
Yeah.
And I never thought it would work, but I tested it, and it just seems to be incredibly solid.
Well, I literally had no wingers, and I had like 9 midfield, like centre mids and attacking midfielders. And I was just like, right, I have no defensive-minded midfielders though. I literally had a team of attacking midfielders. So I was just like, right, this guy has 9 for tackling, so you can be the defensive-minded person. Yeah, I don't want to give too much away again, but it's going fairly well so far. So people will have to tune in to see exactly how well it's going. But yeah, you're doing a save with Paris, not Paris Saint-Germain. I haven't spoke to you. I've obviously messaged you on Twitter just to compliment the intro to the club, which you did, which was really good.
Of course, yeah.
I really enjoyed how you had it with the old vintage background and the changed images on front of it. People really do need to check out Ryan. Actually, I pestered you constantly about seeing the Portsmouth one, but you were just so far behind. I think some people find it so hard to join halfway through.
Well, particularly if with Portsmouth, it was like 150 episodes nearly, so I completely understand. There's still people catching up on it now, which is incredible.
It genuinely is. There's people still post on our Facebook group. Every now and again, you'll see someone link your Portsmouth playlist.
Really?
And when someone says, "Oh, what shall I watch?" and someone will link and go, "Oh, I'm still watching it." I think Hilario, one of the members on our group,
yeah,
he is still watching it.
Yeah, I know he is. Yeah.
I think he's around 110 maybe now. I know last week you said 100, so.
He used to comment, but he hasn't commented in a while, so I wasn't sure if he was still watching it.
I know, yeah, don't worry. He randomly comments on my stuff from like 2 months ago sometimes.
Well, I suppose it's like when, with it's that far behind, comments are kind of less useful, I suppose, so people tend not to comment on older content because, they're not going to be able to make much of a difference, I suppose.
It's when you read the comment in the top corner and you think, what episode is that from? And then you load up and you're like, oh, okay.
A guy told me on like the 2nd episode of my Portsmouth series a couple of days ago to implement some tactic. I'm thinking, dude, that was not October last year.
There you go, Ryan. This is why you should do YouTube, just to confuse yourself.
It's something I'm going to target once you teach me how to do everything.
It's so simple, and it's a lot of fun to do. Like I said, I mean, I've been doing the one, for people who haven't seen it, go on our website. I'm on season 9 of a journeyman save, and it's the first time in 18 years of playing Football Manager that I actually switched clubs during a save. And I loved it. I started off at Milton Keynes, believe it or not. And last season I'd finished runners-up in the Premier League and the Champions League with Liverpool. So I've kind of gone around. And then this one now I'm doing online. It's kind of an extended version. I've started with the worst stats possible. I swear to God, my guy's so shit, it's embarrassing. And just no qualifications, no stats. Obviously attribute masking on, just so literally there's players. Obviously I'm playing as Egerton, the town I live in, and I've scouted players who are based on the island just next to Egerton, and I can't see a single one of their stats. It's like I could walk over and look at him.
I know the feeling.
But it's fun, I like it. It makes it challenging. Obviously, people get to follow it. And it is a journey, man. So if people want to check it out, and I kind of start not doing good with Egerton, the save won't just stop. Because I've actually got the journeyman bug of doing the one on the website, this YouTube one, I will end up going on the Wonder. Where will I go? No idea. If anyone will want me, I mean, with my player knowledge of one, I'm sure.
They are great fun, though.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I'd never done it. I genuinely never switched a club.
I'd done it once before back on FM14 before I started. Like, the last save I did before I started doing YouTube, I ended up doing a journeyman save, but most of that was spent in Portugal with Unial. But I just really wanted to do one when I got the new computer, so I could, what I'm doing with Outcastle icons, just to turn everything on and see where you end up. And the coolest things happen when you do that.
Now, do you know, after your Portsmouth save ended, I decided I was going to like freeze you out just to make you come and apologise to me. But after you never contacted me, I thought, I'm going to have to get back and watch these videos now. So I've caught up nearly. I did it backwards. I've seen the most recent episodes. I'm now where you were in Kazakhstan.
Oh yeah.
I'm kind of going backwards just to kind of get the backstory a little bit.
Kazakhstan's sort of where it really started to kick into gear, where I invented the Christmas tree of doom, and then everything kind of went.
On your last episode, you gave it all away because you'd looked back on your clubs.
Oh yeah, shit, I did.
And I was like, fuck, I'll still go back. So we
had a good time in Malta as well, actually, because the club themselves were very, very accommodating to me.
Yeah. Well, no, I saw the one. I watched the first one when you were in Finland.
Oh, yeah.
But then I decided I was going to get angry because you weren't going to bring Portsmouth back. And
I'm
obviously,
still going to stream it.
I know, but I was waking up for work and I had nothing to watch. So I was like, damn that, man. But obviously now I've had to forgive you, son. And then you brought Paris in, which is obviously a club I'm fond of. So
I'm going to do another Red Star versus Portsmouth thing, though, maybe.
Cool. See, that's what we like to see. By the way, people who don't realise, the Monday night show ends 7 minutes ago. So this is kind of like a little added extra of us just gossiping, which is good. You're the first person we've extended the show with.
I'll take it.
Jamie J619 again's been on. He said, Matt, when you're making the thumbnails for your videos, are there any design principles that you try to stick to?
Yeah. I mean, basically, you might notice my thumbnails all kind of stick to a relatively similar format. So I literally just copy a couple of the layers across, and then I just take a logo. I just basically get PNGs of the logos, the name of the league, not the name of the league, like the league's logo, if there is one available. Usually a stadium picture, usually with the fans, but not always. And if there's no stadium pictures available, like you notice with some of my Outcast of Icons thumbnails, there's none of that. I've just got pictures of mountains and stuff. I always use that, and then I'll just layer it over the top, but then use like a what's the word? I can't think of the word. Like an outer glow, but a dark one around them, and then just use like just mess with the opacity and use like filters and layers and stuff just to try and make it look blended a little bit. I was making some thumbnails for another guy earlier, and I was just trying to figure out like if there's a similar thing. Actually, I'm quite glad you asked that.
There you go. And also, by the way, check out mine because they're cooler. I actually went to the stadium of the team I'm managing. I sat in the stand when it was closed, and then got my girlfriend to stand at the other side of the stadium and take a picture.
That is cool.
With a proper, she has proper cameras, so it wasn't like just on my phone. So it was a really good picture, and I took a couple of me as if I was like pointing at the players. Then I kind of faded a white fade in round it, so kind of like the whole surround is all white, so you can just see the picture.
Mm.
In fact, because I'm such a nerd and we are talking Football Manager to end tonight's show, I can actually show you on the background. So if people bear with me a second. But do you want to just tell Ryan a bit about your power save? What are your plans with it?
Basically, the idea is to take back the city from PSG, essentially. So we still haven't fully decided on what criteria I've got to meet, but obviously because some of the requests were a little bit unrealistic, things like winning more trophies than PSG, which would just take way too long, and I just think it would get a bit stale if we tried to do that. So I don't know quite how we're going to do it yet, but the idea is obviously we're going to try and win the Champions League with Paris FC, of course, but overthrowing PSG is not going to be an easy task because it's PSG, and they seem to be in the Champions League final every other year on pretty much every save I've done, basically. So it's going to be tough, but that's the whole point of this save. Is a little bit more like the Portsmouth save, where because we're coming up through the leagues, it means in theory we should have players a little bit like Norman Millington and whatnot to try and get the characters going, I guess. We're getting that kind of way already, actually.
Well, it appears there you go, I've put the picture in the background, but it does appear I've actually put a slideshow of all the different episode thumbnails I've already made in preparation. So even though it was just planned to be one image, it's going through them all. There you go, there's episode 4. You can see the massive difference from episode 3. So brace yourself when that goes live. And episode 5 is just like totally different.
It's a whole new world.
Yeah, but do you like what I'm doing there is I'm pointing at a player and telling him he's shit.
You're shit, you're even shitter.
Just come around the whole stadium. Oh, and then there's my manager profile, just in case you want to check it out. And you'll see I even cut myself in so I don't have a background.
That PNG though.
Bosnia, you're just jealous. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Unless Ryan, do you have anything you want to talk about? Brilliant. We actually killed Ryan.
No, you haven't. I put myself on mute.
He muted himself. That's how interested he is. When we talk YouTube, Ryan goes to sleep.
No, I knocked my mute button. I was just going to set up the Paris save, and I'm going to go and watch it now because there's nothing on telly.
Oh, there you go. See, extra viewer.
That should be my new tagline. Second yellow card for when there's nothing on telly.
Yeah, don't make it sound too good, Ryan.
I'll take that.
Before we finish that, I just want to actually quickly mention for anybody who likes watching YouTube as well, Golden FM's released a series. He's finally doing a Let's Play series with Chelmsford.
That looks really good.
Chelmsford sounds like who it is. I think it's Chelmsford.
It is Chelmsford. It's Chelmsford City. Yeah, they're a local club to me, so I'm quite happy to see that. Because of course Paul's from Chelmsford, so.
Also, just quickly, once the top player decides to go to Palace FC and then snubs PSG, then you've done it. That's what Jamie J619 says. That's a good one to do as well. Maybe if PSG bid for a player, you go in and bid as well and see if you can. But the thing is, it's so easy on FM because you just kind of offer the extra wage.
That's the thing. It's almost that would be. I could probably do that when we're not even challenging for the title.
I do get the idea though, Jamie.
Yeah.
In real life, that is an actual really, really good way of saying now you're doing it because you snubbed that other club. But it's just so easy to do on Football Manager, unfortunately.
I fancy going unbeaten against them, like 10 games or something would be quite an interesting thing to try.
That would be cool. But I think first things first, Matt, don't get sacked this season. Then from there, you can move on.
No, I can't move on. That's the problem.
Oh no, I mean just like move up.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But yeah, thanks for coming on, pal. Really appreciate it.
It's been great. I haven't been on for a little while, so it's been good to catch up with you guys.
Yeah, exactly. And as always, Ryan.
No worries.
Thanks, James, for coming on. Oh no, wait, he didn't turn up. James has probably been busy at work. People who listen to the show regularly know James works on a Monday night and normally goes running home, but he's too slow tonight. But yeah, we will see you all on Thursday now, and the FM show is back. Now I am more unill than I was last week, if that's a word, Ryan.
No, it's not.
Brilliant. Right, we will see you all on Thursday. Cheers, Matt.